For a long time, I thought motivation was the problem. I thought if I just believed more, tried harder, pushed myself enough, I'd finally feel like I was enough. I'd finally become the person I wanted to be. But no matter how much effort I put in, I kept circling back to the same patterns, the same doubts, the same limits, that same invisible ceiling. That was until I read Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. And when I tell you, it completely reframed how I see success, confidence, and even healing. This book doesn't tell you to manifest or fake confidence. It makes a much more uncomfortable claim. You will never outperform the image you own of yourself. Not because you're lazy, not because you're incapable, but because your mind is wired to obey the picture it believes is you. And once I understood that, a lot of my self-sabotage finally made sense. The human nervous system reacts to an imaginary experience almost as forcefully as it does to a real experience. Meaning, your nervous system cannot tell the difference between reality and your imagination. Literally. Maxwell Maltz was a plastic surgeon. He noticed something strange in his patients. Some people will get life-changing surgery and their lives will completely change overnight. Others will get the same surgery and nothing would improve at all. Same face, same body, different outcomes. The difference wasn't the appearance, it was the self-image. Miles explained that your brain works like a cell mechanism, a goal-seeking machine. You give it a target, and it automatically adjusts your behavior to reach it. The problem is, most of us never consciously choose a target. We're mostly running on old programming, like childhood labels, past failures, moments where we decided quietly, this is just who I am. And once that image is installed, your mind will defend it, even if it hurts you. At first, I read past this line. It felt interesting but distant. But the more I paid attention, the more I realized how much I was living under a version of myself I decided on a long time ago. Without meaning to, I've been moving through life with this weird assumption of who I was, what I was capable of, how far I could go or could not go. And every time something challenged that image of myself, my mind would pull me back into place, into that same old image. So instead of asking, what do I actually want to do here? I started asking myself, what version of myself am I acting from right now? Was I responding as the person I wanted to become? Or was I still responding as the old person I used to be? That question alone changed things for me. It made me realize that I didn't need to force myself to do more or be better. I needed to stop letting an outdated self image make decisions for me. And that was the shift. Not fixing myself, but becoming aware of the picture I'd been unconsciously obeying. You cannot consistently perform in a manner inconsistent with the way you see yourself. This part humbled me because I used to pride myself on discipline, on pushing through, on overcoming myself. But now say willpower will almost always lose to self-image. I mean, you can force yourself to act against your self-image for a while, but eventually your mind almost always pulls you back to yourself, to what feels familiar. If deep down you see yourself as someone who always messes things up, someone who doesn't finish, someone who's almost but never quite there, you'll unconsciously sabotage anything that threatens that identity. Not because you want to fail, but because your mind prefers consistency over happiness. That's why change feels so hard. You're not fighting habits, you're fighting an identity. This part forced me to be honest with myself because there were things I said I wanted, like growth, confidence, consistency, but the way I saw myself hadn't caught up with that yet. So every time things started going well, I'd find a way to pull back by missing a day, second guessing myself, lowering the standard just enough to stay comfortable. I used to think I lacked discipline, but really I was just protecting an old identity, an identity that felt safer than success. Once I saw that quote, the question changed. It wasn't, why can't I stick with this? It became, who do I believe I am? And who am I afraid of becoming? That's when change stopped feeling like force and started feeling like alignment. The emotionally healthy person has the ability to fail without feeling like a failure, meaning you can make mistakes, but mistakes don't define you. This was huge for me. Maltz explained that emotionally healthy people don't interpret failure as meaning anything about who they are. They treat it like feedback, like coordinates, like, okay, that didn't work out, adjust. But people with a fragile self image turn every mistake into a character flaw. One rejection becomes I'm not desirable. One setback becomes I always fail, and slowly you start editing your life down to match that belief. This quote taught me to separate behavior from identity. You can fail without becoming a failure. You can struggle without being broken. And that distinction alone can change how heavy life feels. The best results are achieved when you allow your automatic mechanism to function without interference, meaning the more you try, the worse you do. That sounds backwards, but it's true. Maltz noticed that big performances happen when people are calmly absorbed, not tense and desperate. Think about athletes in the zone, artists are lost in their work, when things just flow. That state disappears the moment you start watching yourself too closely. Anxiety is basically self-monitoring on overdrive, constantly checking for answers like, am I doing this right? What if I mess up? What does it say about me? What are people going to think? Psycho-Cybernetics teaches that confidence isn't something you force. It's something that emerges when you stop interfering with yourself, when you trust your system to work instead of micromanaging it out of fear. That part hit me hard because I realized how often I was trying to control myself into being confident by watching every word, every move, every reaction. And the harder I tried to get it right, the worse I felt. Once I understood this, I stopped asking myself questions like, how do I perform better? And started asking myself questions like, what happens if I let myself respond naturally? So instead of tightening it up, I practiced easing up, letting myself speak without rehearsing every sentence, letting myself act without judging it in real time. That's when things started flowing again. Not because I was doing more, but because I finally stopped getting in my own way. Imagination sets the goal picture, which our automatic mechanism then works to achieve. This is where the book gets misunderstood. It's not about delusion. It's not about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about rehearsing a new self-image, gently, repeatedly, without pressure. Your brain learns through repetition and imagery. That's how it was conditioned in the first place. So instead of constantly visualizing failure, Maltz suggests visualizing yourself responding well. Not perfect, not invincible, just calm, competent, capable. And over time, your nervous system will start treating that version of yourself as the norm. That's how change sticks, not through force, through familiarity. And this, in fact, honestly changed the way I used to talk to myself because I realized how often I was rehearsing everything going wrong. I would mess up, I would freeze, say the wrong thing, fall short. Then I wonder why my body was always tense, always racing. So I started doing something small. When I caught myself spiraling, I pictured myself handling it well. Not flawlessly, just steadily. Showing up, staying calm, recovering instead of collapsing. And that was the shift. I stopped using my imagination against myself and started letting it teach my nervous system that I was safe to move forward. Man does not need to be cured. What it needs is to be understood. This part, low-key, it hit me emotionally because so much self-help is rooted into the fact that you're broken, that you need correcting, that something is fundamentally wrong with you. Maltz rejects that idea completely. He believes humans have an inherent success mechanism. It doesn't disappear, it just gets misdirected. You don't need to become someone else. You need to stop identifying with outdated conclusions about who you are. You are not your worst moment. You are not your past. You are not your fear. Those are experiences, not identities. This quote was relieving in a way I didn't expect because I realized how often I've been treating myself like a problem to solve, analyzing every flaw, every reaction, every emotion, always trying to fix something. This part gave me permission to stop. Instead of asking myself, what's wrong with me? I started asking, what am I misunderstanding about myself? That shift softened everything. I stopped fighting who I was and started trusting that I wasn't broken in the first place. Psycho-Cybernetics didn't give me confidence, it gave me permission to stop fighting myself, permission to fail without collapsing, permission to grow without needing proof first. It taught me that lasting change doesn't start with discipline or motivation. It starts with how you see yourself when no one's watching. And if there's one thing I want you guys to take from this, it's that be careful how you speak to yourself. Your mind is always listening, and it will work very hard to believe to become whatever you believe you are. Thank you so much to you guys for watching the entire video. If you found this helpful, like and share. You never know who might be trapped in a whole self-image right now. If you have read the book Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, comment down below what stood out to you. And if you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend it. I put the link in the description to the book. Until next time, guys, take care of the image you hold of yourself. It's quietly shaping everything.